Both Gaara and Haku are young geniuses yet have very different styles of battle, with the two being noted to be amongst the most interesting battles posed by fans after Konoha Crush's conclusion in the manga, being voted alongside other battles said to decide the greatest clan in Konoha, or shake the heavens with the most dramatic battle in history. The two's narrative implications being always so similar, so how would they actually do if they were to fight? Shooting for 20k, so subscribe, let's go. Created as a weapon to be toyed with by his father, the Kazekage, Gaara hates the world and lives only to kill, as said by Fanbook 1, which he even goes on to state that his abilities surpass most Chunin and Jonin. He is extremely dangerous, with his iniquity conjoining to his power, ending the lives of all three Amegakure shinobi in the Forest of Death, whose combined danger rating is equal to that of Kabuto's Otogakure squad as listed in the aforementioned book. You see, while many people operate under the preconceived notion that Gaara has to be below Chunin or even Jonin level due to his need for participating in such an exam, this just isn't true. With Kakashi's special mission report, we're noting how Gaara would occasionally display incredible amounts of chakra, yet the extent to his powers are believed to be unknown. Something Databook 1 furthers by noting such as a reason for why he is so frightening, as Gaara becoming the ultimate weapon for Konoha's destruction wouldn't just result in the collapse of Konoha, but Suna as well. Growing up with this power eventually led Gaara to having to survive constant assassination attempts by his father and those who he would send. However, one assassin he's never had to stop is Haku, who taking a role as a hunter ninja could be implied to be even stronger than Zabuza, a rival to the strongest Jonin in Konoha, Kakashi, so wherein Gaara can stand above most Jonin, so could Haku. Although this by nature prompts the question, or I suppose I should say, the proclivity to wonder how were they so relative to their fellow age group members despite their absolutely monstrous peak levels of power. And well, to put it plainly, it simply requires an explanation of how characters in Naruto perceive and categorize the ultimacy of whatever they are talking about. For example, when characters discuss speed in the series, we know they denote their absolute peak speed by means of any amp rather than their raw combat speed, as the Fourth Right Kage actually hails himself as the fastest shinobi alive due to his body flicker despite having been nearly killed by Sasuke's Inton. Taking it up a notch for users of both the Flying Thunder God, another speed technique of godlike proportion aligned for one to open a subspace beyond the concepts of space and distance to move through it, similarly to how a summoning operates, is also considered to be why Obito considered Minato to be so fast, wherein Tobirama was called the fastest of his generation due to his harnessing of said ability. Where, moving into the conversation back towards Haku, he possesses a Kekkei Genkai in the Ice Mirrors, which is a higher tier jutsu than anything in Zabuza's arsenal, so he considers Haku to be a greater power level than himself due to his peak being greater than the peaks of his own. Or maybe. And while yes, the English statement is just surprise surprise wrong. It states that his skills surpass even my own, which is completely absent in the original kanji, and a more accurate translation would be, on top of that, even I'm amazed by that guy's jutsu. It's the terrifying ability known as a Kekkei Genkai. So yes, Zabuza is attributing Haku's Kekkei Genkai to his success as a shinobi entirely, which may surpass Zabuza's. Anyway, as Sakura doesn't think Kakashi could beat him, and while, sure, she doesn't know this, it could be a situation kinda like Tenten and Neji, where she makes a statement regarding Gaara-san despite being KO'd, and it's again reiterated in a non-biased source like Databook 1, so it's kind of the author speaking through certain characters, but I digress. This same goes for Gaara. Transfiguring into the One-Tails would likely be far beyond any of the Jonin in either Konoha or Suna, hence to why he is greater than them. Now, I would still toss them a bone and say that Haku could still be relative to Zabuza even while he isn't moving through the mirrors, but perhaps just utilizing them in a more minor capacity with maybe the Senbon or something like that. However, in Haku's case, the mirrors act as essentially a higher form of power, a new state he undergoes as it allows for him to just fly across the closed space and fire constant attacks, going from getting kicked around by Sasuke while likely holding back, seeing as Zabuza questions this, and Sasuke even admits that Haku is holding back in the mirrors, to then firing out over 15 different Senbon in one panel, completely dropping Sasuke while holding back still, and opting to add Naruto into the mix while still holding back. And we know Gaara is relative to his superiors in his version 2 or version 3 transform states, which is why he was able to actually overcome most of Sasuke's physical ability, where Sasuke would be forced to utilize the Chidori after his 30-day training period, and having fought and gained his experience and potential boost from the curse mark, making this Sasuke probably much greater than the one capable of clashing with the mirrorless, suppressed Haku, dodging his 1,000 stinging needles of death jutsu, and even firing shuriken of his own. And while yes, this Haku can completely block his off-guard attempts and then dodge the point-blank kunai, the following remarks about Sasuke's speed might be the nail in the coffin to suggest that this transformed Gaara, who actually gets faster in the following clash, would be above any mirrorless Haku, at least from what he's shown. And he would absolutely need to use the mirrors to stand any chance at all, as in the mirrors he's no longer just dodging Sasuke's throwables, which are obviously much faster than himself, but straight up catching them on top of the arguments mentioned prior, allowing for me to just be comfortable in asserting that Haku should certainly be above the earlier Sasuke fighting variation of Gaara, who doesn't really scale above Sasuke physically and was getting kicked around and bloodied up. And while sure, I would admit that Haku can't sustain these mirrors for very long, Gaara also probably can't sustain his constant Senbon gashes all over his body, especially if we are to assert that Haku is trying to kill Gaara. And in that case, those higher end Jonin levels of power won't really be presented from Gaara, where they will be from Haku, and he should just, kill Gaara there. However, if Gaara doesn't just get stuck into the mirrors in base, then the case for him winning gets much better, as not only will he begin to progress and transform upon his injuries, having seen Sasuke as a worthy opponent to kill due to him being able to injure Gaara. We know the Senbon aren't an end-all be-all, as in the Forest of Death, Gaara blocked every single Senbon from the Amegakure Shinobi, of the which there are exactly 1,000, like with Haku's attack. Even when Lee tries to force his way through the sand shield, no matter the direction he tried, it didn't work, as we know the sand operates independently from Gaara, utilizing his chakra. However, this can become a downside, as Gaara's non-sand related combative prowess has never been pushed up until this point, and if Haku is trying to kill him, then our only link we have to truly really connect the two is that Gaara is inferior to a stronger Sasuke and is relative to said Sasuke in his higher forms, and Haku is relative to a weaker Sasuke and massively above him to the point where he could kill him instantly when using his higher forms. So it really comes down to if you think the training underwent by Sasuke is enough to bridge the difference between Sasuke and Haku. If you say yes, then Gaara should have some physical advantage for sure. If not, then Haku should have the physical advantage. So our best bet is just to kind of suggest the two are relative, though, maybe superior to each other's correlated inferior states, as to say like the mirror Haku is above base Gaara and V2 or V3 Gaara is above base Haku. If you wanted me to make a comparison between their higher forms, I'd probably say Gaara is superior. However, this is where I'd actually give Haku the advantage, as Gaara's need to open those states comes with severe consequences mentally, where he becomes impaired due to his judgment after the headaches of love continue to rage on. This only really comes out after being hit with the Chidori, arguably the strongest attack in the entire Chunin exams, and then it's after that he enters those forms after needing to be carried by these sand siblings through the forest. Whereas, even when getting absolutely blasted through by Rock Lee, being kicked around dozens of times and whatnot, no higher form came out whatsoever, because Gaara likely wouldn't use something on somebody he doesn't respect. Gaara respects loneliness, viewing it as true power. And while yes, Haku is a lone prodigy, he's cold and calculated, he's not like either Sasuke, Gaara, or Neji at his core, and has Zabuza, who he cares for deeply. Both he and Gaara are two ideologically opposed characters, both are tools for the shinobi world, but Gaara is ruthless and cold, whereas Haku is kind and compassionate at their core. So Haku's, willingness to enter the mirrors is a much better bet than Gaara's to enter the V2 or V3 state. And even then, if Gaara enters a higher form, then the mirrors would probably just break, as Haku can't hold them up for long and they literally have terrible durability. But since the two are trying to kill each other, Haku should be much more aggressive when taken to the degree enough to what's needed to bypass the sand shield, as seen against Lee. And while both do fly through the opponent at the same sort of fashion, Haku has access to the Senbon, which are much faster than himself. You can use Sasuke's Chidori Senbon or Jiraiya's Senbon attacks being much faster than themselves, where Haku's is even capable of fatally wounding Sasuke despite not even trying to do so. Of course, there isn't really a world where these would break the sand. The argument would be more so that they could bypass it like how Lee did. Perhaps if Gaara got 2 damage, then he would transform, and in that case, there really isn't anything Haku could do whatsoever, and it's more that the victory would go to Haku if he were to start the fight off perfectly. If not, then Gaara would win. So personally, just going off proclivity to engage those higher forms, I may posit that Haku could win like 5.5, maybe 6 out of 10 times, whereas Gaara would win the rest. If you are to suggest that Gaara would act slightly more effectively, then it's probably cooked and he should win this match 6, maybe 7 out of 10 times, just due to his defense and ability to take up, the serious damage on top of the sand shield, which would just protect his body. All in all, this is a really close bout, and one I've had on my mind for a little bit, so if you enjoyed these, perhaps had a different conclusion, then let's hear that down below, alongside the suggestions for other videos, maybe more part 1 content. But yeah, if you're dead set on a specific topic, then check my post and we can make that happen. Ultimately, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, it helps out a lot, but more importantly, God bless you all. Love you guys.